welcome back to Game 5 of Team WE versus Cloud9 as we saw over the sights of Guangzhou here. We are standing in their gymnasium and we have pushed yet another quarterfinal series to a game number 5. I don't know how this keeps happening, but if you only tuned in for the beginning and the end, you picked correctly.
Who tunes into that 56-minute game 1, takes a 3-hour break, and then comes back? Who are you talking to right now, Pace Your Time? It's been a great series.
It's been a really fun one, and are we closer to knowing who will win? That was the most expected game in terms of style. WE coming in, getting Mystic ahead, rolling through. 31 minutes, maybe a bit slow given how good their early game was. That felt the most like group stages, but suddenly we have to decide, will it be group stages again? Will it be another fatal turn? There's so many different variables, and because they're now on the red side, you could actually see a singed first round and then some bans sent towards some anti-singed champions. They don't even have to leave it for last pick.
It very well could be, but we also have to wonder how pivotal the singed even was in those picks, because when I see this draft phase play out, WE has the choice of what type of game they want it to be. If they don't ban the Janna or the Lulu, they keep those both up, and they would either force C9 into a double Janna Lulu and Kalista ban, which could then in turn give Team WE a first pick Galio. So either they can rig it so they get the Galio, or either they can rig it so they get the Janna. What I don't think we're going to see again is the first pick Caitlyn, because that absolutely backfired for Team WE the last time they were on blue side in game 3.
Do you think we'll see Kalista unbanned?
I highly doubt it.
I do too. But you never know. I mean, usually in a Game 5, teams play to their comfort, to their styles, to what they know, because the pressure is so high that you have to do the only thing you really know how and are the most comfortable with. But changes in general have been very good for Cena, and they've adapted game in, game out, game in, game out. Do they have any more surprises, or they just say, you know what? Let's just see what happens.
I feel like if you really want to run the Singed, you have to double support ban, because both Janna and Lulu, in different ways, make Singed life really, really hard. I think the Janna in particular is like the ultimate counter when it comes to kiting away a Singed. So there could be Kalista, Janna, Lulu banned on red, but like you say, the Galio sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, but Team WE also has so much choice in this. We've seen a lot of teams banning one of the two because on blue side, because they're okay with that trade and they're still happy with their first pick priority on something like a Tristana or even something like a Jarvan. Based on the tempo of this game, I thought the Jarvan was huge. Like, Contract's difference between his Jarvan and Sejuani was so big in the early game and was pivotal in a lot of those initiations.
I love how you can see Ohm's notebook in the background there. They're also asking the same questions that you and I, Pace Your Time, are as well, about how they're going to approach the draft, because the first pick wasn't pivotal for them. Instead, the Caitlyn really did fall over 2 games ago, the last time they were on blue side. Red side, innately, it feels like outscales blue, if you will, in terms of metas, because last pick usually is where the power can be loaded. But today it's kind of been to and fro, to and fro.
Yeah, I really wonder if they would be willing to dare Jensen to play Galio, because there is a world where they're just, as the blue side team, opting away from all the priority bans. And the reason we don't see many blue side teams do this, as in why they'd throw like one ban at the Lulu to then force a Janna ban, is because they're afraid of what you can get in the second rotation, comboing a Jarvan with a Galio if you decided to first pick a Janna. But we've seen one mid Galio game from Jensen in the play-in stage. So really, I can't wait for this draft phase to happen.
And I'm thinking about champions that might jump up in priority. It might be first rounds. Talia, for example, has been very, very powerful at this tournament on this day. Even Jensen, moving back to it, has worked a treat for them. There's a lot of expected picks, but there's also been other picks that have been around the edges of today that we haven't seen. And the Kalista, I think, is a bet too far, but the Galio, it's a possibility.
Well, we'll find out soon, because here it is time for Game 5 between WE and Cloud9. The winner will move on to the quarterfinals to face Samsung Galaxy. But right now, you just have to think about the draft. In WE, there's Kalista, and there's Tristana.
I love how the crowd is now cheering Tristana first bans. That's where we've gotten to in the world's meta, and the Kalista, it is going to be banned away. So far, pretty standard from WE. They have not allowed Cloud9 to pick Ezreal on red side once today.
This is the pivotal ban that decides the rest of the dominoes, because if C9 doesn't ban either support, Team WE has the option for a first pick Janna Lulu, and there it is.
All right, well, that's pretty much, hey, we're not banning either. What do you guys want to do? They actually take Rumble away from 957 very early into this.
This might mean that Impact would be okay with the Maokai pick. Also a Jarvan ban. This dictates that they don't want to trade things back around if they do have that one power pick, because they were expecting the Jarvan to be picked in the 1-2 slot by C9.
Sejuani first pick, a real possibility if it's left open, even though it hasn't found as much success today as in previous days. A lot available here for WE.
Has to be Galio though, right, for Cloud9. There's a lot of discussion by the team, but they actually banned Xayah.
So now the question is, do you first pick Galio with Janna, Sej being the next two things you give up? Or is this that situation we talked about where Team WE dares Jensen to play it?
So my read on this is that you can't take Galio first pick because Janna Kate can just be taken on red side as a duo. So now they're basically daring Cloud9 to take away the Caitlyn. They can just go Kog'Maw on blue side, for example, and be pretty happy. Cloud9 do not want to give up Janna Kate, and I think it was smart for WE to first pick away the Janna.
Yeah, even though Caitlyn is winless in this series, Sneaky did do over 1,700 damage per minute with this pick, but it means Galio is up on the next rotation for Team WE.
Well, that should be the pretty simple pick here. WE hover it, the crowd cheers!
It's Galio Kog'Maw. I mean, it just has to be, right?
Because how do you crash the bottom lane turret against a Galio team? Every time you push up or think about diving, the Galio can stuff that play.
Well, cheers, there's the Kog'Maw. We got the order slightly wrong, but WE should be taking these champions, and they do. Cloud9 are playing with fire here.
WE going about as WE as can be. The first visit of Galio on the day. Now, Malzahar is the pick that we saw into it in the victory yesterday. They'd probably have to take it here. It's another one of those picks that Jensen hasn't really specialized in, but it's become almost the meta pick into the Galio. There's still others like Lucian, for example, and we've seen Ryze attempted and failed. Seeing what they decide on, they're just going to go for the more standard Lulu. Second round bans for Team WE are going to be very intriguing.
Yeah, we also don't know exactly where the Galio is going. The assumption is mid because you need to be able to stop it, but you have to keep in mind that it could just go top lane, so Jensen has to be a little bit careful about what he decides to blind pick.
Now, Cho'Gath at this pick for Sneaky is the god tier, because Cho'Gath actually does really well against top lane Galio, whose damage mitigation is going to be affecting the true damage. So that's why we saw Samsung Galaxy drafting at one point the Malzahar and Cho'Gath to stop a flex pick coming through of the Galio.
And Papa Smithy, I think the Singe ban is actually required here, because even though Team WE can stuff the engages in the bottom lane, how are they going to force fights? They've done it before with Galio Rumble and just kind of willed their way to a victory with the Gragas jungle. I wouldn't mind seeing a Gragas ban from C9 to try and take away as much engage as possible from this Team WE lineup.
Well, we'll see what they decide on. Cloud9's final ban of this series will be Jace. Taking the option away from Xie. Again, in the back of their minds, they know 957 can play the Galio as well.
Initiation for Cloud9 would be what you think you want, but the moment you see Galio Janna initiating on it is nigh on impossible. So something to shred the front line like the Malzahar, maybe the only way to get access to the Kog'Maw, deleting the front line before you can even get access to the back line. So just with Janna, Galio, your options for a viable team comp are pretty narrow for Cloud9.
Exactly, and it's almost just saying, hey, play kite back. Kite back as much as you want and assume you can take it better to late game, and that's where they're kind of pushing Team WE here. Because if Team WE puts the Galio mid, they're going to have a low damage profile in the late game, almost only damage on Kog'Maw, and potentially C9 can outscale that way. But if they move the Galio top lane, then they are unable to stop the turret dives early in the bottom lane because the Galio can't roam down.
Regardless of what else, ooh.
I
was about to say, I love the Rek'Sai, but again, being pushed to that point you mentioned, Gragas, Mache also open, so if WE don't want to flex.
The Gnar is super interesting right here because it would give them late game push priority on the Shen.
On a simple point, early game, they also have pushing lanes, and Cloud9 with the Caitlyn draft want to go around and take turrets, starting with unlocking themselves from the bot side. So I can understand it. It'd be a pushing lane in top side on the Shen. The Galio basically auto wins every push war. But it's all down to this last pick for Cloud9.
Just watch these two. There's always so much conversation between Reaper and Jensen, but Jensen says, I have some picks, I could probably play Mal's, but today I will finish my tournament or continue by playing Orianna.
It's interesting they took the Orianna. To me, this is a very risky pick in this particular draft because it says to me, we need Sneaky to actually set the pace. Sneaky needs to get out of lane and be able to take down turrets, keep the gold lead pretty large for Cloud9. actually being able to shockwave and do damage through this front line, or at least kill the front line if you can't get to the Cogmore, is so difficult to achieve. It's a really interesting decision.
Yeah, and in 137 competitive games on record this year, 957 has played Gnar once and lost. So as far as being pushed to the brink of your champion pools, we are seeing it in this game. They're trying to take the Gnar because of the matchup, but it is not something Team WE has played with often.
And again, this is what happens when you push a series, to this final game, is that something somewhere has to change. You know, you are pushed to your limit truly when you go the distance in a best of 5. And at some point, 957 was like, all right, I need to change up something. I want to play Gnar. That feels like the best pick for me in the matchup and for the team. Sorry if you haven't played it that much, because you got to prove it now.
He's going to have a target on his head. Sejuani Shen, with one taunt, can basically stack up the passive and potentially try to snowball early through the Gnar lane, who is very squishy in the early levels. So Condi's jungle pathing, whether for once he'll actually pay a bit of his attention to the man who's been on the island the entire tournament for WE, the Gnar from 957. So many questions, and finally, we're going to get an answer on this series.
And 957 has such a good pick for the comp. It's just a matter of whether or not they can make it work, because if they do not have that Gnar in the top lane, and instead they go with something like a Maokai, they are all magic damage, and it falls off tremendously in the late game for all the shields that C9 has. But he can be that physical damage threat that forces you to dump gold into armor for the split push and makes impact killable in the team fights. But he has to do well on it for that to work.
Well, GA again flashing the flare, feeling confident in the crowd. Understandably goes wild. Game 5 between WE and C9. The odds of this happening, I think, before were very low, as Jensen returns with flare in kind.
Both these teams needing to step up to the pressure of Game 5. One game at this point to decide who faces Samsung in the semifinals of Worlds. Last game, Contracts had his worst jungle start that we've seen. The level 2 gank not necessarily working, falling behind Condi's pace. He's got to start well this week.
Yes, decision making to invade some of those camps at the Gromp at level 5 really exacerbated the early game problems for C9. They fell down, were not able to get up. Interesting to note that neither team goes for any sort of aggressive vision. Say, defensive 5-man start for both sides. I think predictability for Condi is a big thing for C9 to get eyes on, given that it's going to be pushing lanes almost exclusively for WE.
Yeah, and also got to point out that Team WE has insane disengage in the Team 5 phase. Janna and Gragas can both knock back. It's so hard to get through a Galio. Even Gnar can technically knock you back with Mega Gnar if he wants to. C9, if they do engage, has to be so clean and crisp with that, but both teams are going to struggle to actually force fights in this match.
Mystic forcing something here, level 1, shield on, gets some W damage down. Smoothie do it, trying to get back, does auto onto Ben. Now Mystic can eat some trades, but Sneaky not quite getting enough damage with the auto done with Ben able to shield. Again, a lot of onus on this lane. We were right for C9, I think, for W to continue to play the balance that they have played all series long. Mystic, he loves to be aggressive and get ahead if he can, but he'll need to have a lot of discipline to really go through what has been a grueling series.
Yeah, and we watched this lane play out in Game 1. If Sneaky and Smoothie can get it working the exact same way, you would expect that turret to fall around 8 or 10 minutes. But we also know that one mistake with the Caitlyn lane, as we saw from Mystic and Ben when they got double killed by Sneaky, just ends the game. Because if the Caitlyn falls behind the item curve, there's really no coming back.
Yeah, that's the predictor for me. If C9 pick up the first turret, and especially if it's bot side, that is what they need to start their game plan rolling. If somehow, anywhere on the map, WE pick up first turret, and suddenly Caitlyn is responding to pressure being enacted by WE, I think C9 are done. So that's really about the early game. They committed to it with this Caitlyn and Lulu. That's why you will expect Contracts to spend most of his time jungling on the bot side up from this early visit.
Great interrupt there. Xie probably going to be forced to flash, get stunned, but very tanky on the Galio. Thunderlord to proc in from Jensen, but Xie just casually walks away.
He doesn't even use flash. The damage reduction that Galio has from that taunt, which then gives him the courage shield when you gank him, is one of the reasons he is so immovable from that mid lane. It wasn't a high cost gank for Contracts, and it will push him back for the recall, but he teleports right back in, keeps up the shove.
Does mean that Gragas has a pretty good read that he's not going to be bot side right now,
This
Contracts.
is huge. They need to go for Smoothie.
He was spotted though. Smoothie going to walk away from the slow, and Condi gives it up.
Follow up, not the highest from level 3 Cogmore and Ajana, so No flashes burned there. That would have been the ideal, especially if it was on Smoothie, but Cloud9 can return to normalcy in the bot lane.
Yeah, but you can see already the Galio roam pressure can add so much to the early game. We've already seen missing pings when he roamed down towards the bottom lane and Contracts was going to come up for the gank. He then shoves in, gets a deep control ward to prevent any roams from top lane as well.
If he can get any sort of control wards bottom side, like we've mentioned a couple of times in Taliyah games, then every time Caitlyn does her job, which is to walk up to the turret and take pot shots basically every minion wave, if she is missing from mid lane, the chance of Gragas and also the hero's entrance gets higher and higher. So mid lane control, specifically bot side, Jensen wants to keep Jia as accountable as possible and also to keep him in lane as much as possible.
They're doing a good job pressuring Shea, but again, it's a Galio. Not really a whole lot to worry about. Actually, Justice Punch gonna force Jensen to shield himself, and again, Shea just shoving in every single wave as Condi's back in bot lane.
Yeah, Contracts are spotted top lane on a ward, so they're safe to fully all in Smoothie here.
Smoothie's the first one, still has his flash, gonna have to make this really count. Damage still there. Late flash from Smoothie, but probably enough to save his life.
Thought maybe Condi would go for the body slam flash, but it would have been his death as well because there was no minions to help him on the way out. And a very important gank for the tempo of that lane, mainly because of the top lane ward that they had, enabling them to be so aggressive.
And Galio makes this such a struggle for Contracts, because in a different game, if you don't have this auto-push lane, unkillable gargoyle in mid lane, you split the map, you play around bot side, you trust that you'll have your mid laner react, but Galio always reacts first, even before level 6, because of how much he can push. It's much safer for Sejuani to be topside. Contracts doesn't want to give up any kills like in the previous game, but that means that the collateral damage is that Smoothie has to give up his flash.
Incoming dive perhaps though. Well, the wave's not on the spot for it. Instead, Contracts is going to ward out that Gromp. Condi actually now here. Looks like Condi may lose this, unbeknownst to him.
No one has spotted each other yet. Now, Contracts will see him.
Thing there. Looks like Condi's going top lane. Impact needs to book it. He does, and Condi does smite away the Gromp.
This also lets Contracts know that he's pretty safe in there. And I also want to pose a question. You expect the Caitlyn to kill the turret in a lot of scenarios, but the late game scaling doesn't need to be the Caitlyn in this game. Maybe C9 is playing this lane to split, draw jungle attention, because if they can get their top lane and mid lane ahead, they potentially win the late game team fights anyway. So it's a very unique draft we've seen here where neither team allowed them to kind of complete the mecha team comp. They both have elements of early game and elements of late game, and it's all mashed together in this fifth.
And I follow your logic, because you think about the late game and the fact that it's a 1 damage dealer comp, Nara with a bit of an assist, but 1.5 would be the generous way to look at it. And we saw yesterday the Galio comp be outpaced for damage, but it's really intriguing because to me it's all about vision control. If Orianna has full information, can choose her shockwave judiciously at 6 items, maybe there's a way that you're able to just power down the front line, kill the Galio. But in a different game, where they fall behind in vision at any point 6 items, Galio jumps on, suddenly the shockwave is never going to be in the right spot because of all the gap close, and then that chance goes away. And the Gragas threat also with the ult. So actually pulling off the big shockwave, whatever it needs to be in the late game, is kind of only possible with vision advantage.
Yeah, and when we think about WE and their knowledge of playing around Galio, they have an 85% win rate with Galio mid this year. So very comfortable, very confident protecting it. And I think that's why, like, that turret's barely touched by C9, because even pre-6, Galio can assist with that presence in the bot lane just by roaming and getting vision control.
Literally locking in Galio probably adds 5 minutes automatically to the turret destroying time. We've seen as early as 7 minutes. I think any earlier than about 15 is very difficult to engineer. They're not going to blow a flash anytime soon. It's going to be double teleport in a moment, and in addition to the hero's entrance. So very, very difficult for C9 to go for the standard Caitlyn Lulu play.
Given that we are on kind of a very historic moment, but either of these teams, depending on the result of the game, both teams playing very cautiously here. Smoothie gets a couple CSs. BF saw Caitlyn's returning to lane, but Mystic unopposed, really equal in CS versus Sneaky now making his first back. That's a great spot for Kog'Maw to be in.
Yeah, and neither team really wants to make a mistake in this game, so I think there's a chance we see a very late first blood. It takes such a commitment to even go for a kill that the chance of a backfire is huge.
So while the Drake dies, I want to point your attention to this stat here. We remember all the ranged junglers coming through from Contracts in the group stage where he was doing 22% of damage. Sneaky's picking up the slack here. They've changed priority. It's back to the tank junglers, and that's why Sneaky's around the tournament average, in fact, around Mystic's numbers, jumping up to 43% on the day.
And those were WE's numbers from the group stage, with the jungler not doing very much and the AD carry doing the lion's share of it. So definitely matching their opponents here, C9.
Drax catches Condi, Stand United committed. They want to go for a Permafrost in. In fact, should be able to ride in. Ulti not enough. Oh my god, Condi almost saves his own life, but Jensen, he'll be the one with first blood.
They make the commit work, but that top lane is now getting just wailed on by the Gnar.
Nara will eventually take the turret, but if they can actually take bot lane turret, maybe it's all worth it. They're going to keep going, Jack.
Got to track the Galio. He's moving down towards that lane already. Sneaky's just got to run away.
Took too much damage, forced the flash. That turret's going to stay safe.
That's so awkward. Losing that trade means that Nara will get a turret for free over time. You'd have to imagine here. Shenmue back does not have teleport to get back to lane. If they keep his health up, maybe they can try to engineer dive. With flashes available on WE, but now it's almost impossible.
It is so risky. No defensive heal for Smoothie. Teleport up for Gnar. Teleport up for Xie.
Xie TP's in, Impact gets out. You know,
Mark cancel as well.
Yeah, but 957 again. C9 tried to force the trade turrets, but no trade happening just yet.
Double cancel was the end result, so a lot happens in an instant there, but WE pick up first brick, first turret in the top side for free, and all of Impact's time was wasted.
Yeah, and I think that's also why we weren't expecting huge commits for First Blood, because in going for that play, they gave up that pressure top lane and now lost the top lane turret. Whereas if Team WE would have gone for similar play with the Galio ulting down, then they potentially could have lost the mid lane turret to Jensen. They're very slim margins as far as wave push is concerned in this match.
Well, at least for Cloud9, arguably the second best person to get it does get First Blood. Jensen, Morellonomicon already finished from that First Blood kill, and watch this one again.
I mean, still a good combo. They get the permafrost detonation post-flash, still able to chain, and then the shockwave does technically stay in place from where he started the cast when you're dealing with the ball delivery system, so to speak. That's why it's a con.
Yeah, the graphic was definitely very misleading, but the damage did resolve, so that was big for C9, but I kind of take your side of the coin where I'm like, okay, they killed him, but they couldn't turn it into a bot lane turret. Xie was still alive. He was going to be within Hero's entrance. Not getting the objective from a big investment. Remember, in fact, still about 60 seconds left on the cooldown means that it was really just a kill. They haven't even been able to cement wards in the red side jungle of WE.
And I think the correct play would have been for Impact to immediately recall and run back top lane, because then the turret probably would have still had another wave left, but the fact that they thought about that bottom lane play when double teleport is up. Yes, they forced the double cancel out, but those are probably going to be back before C9 can get enough pressure to start the next play, and was just outplayed by Team WE.
Notice that Janna will re-enter lane with an Ardent Sensor advantage, so one more back timing for C9 means that Mystic's going to be even more immovable in the 2v2.
Certainly a good thing there. Smoothie a little bit behind on gold as far as that completion goes. He's racing as fast as he can to get there, but will be a little while there. Sneaky also made it back. Berserker Greaves and 2 daggers join in with that BF sword, but Mystic again just looking to farm it up and skip the blasting ones.
Yeah, this puts C9's bottom lane in a really difficult spot. Ardent Sensor is at its most powerful upon the point of completion, and it actually gets a little bit worse as the game goes on, since it's all about flat numbers. It's life on hit, it's magic damage on hit, and you're seeing the effects of one team having Sensor and the other not.
Yep, Sneaky's running away. Help force coming from Contracts, but he's a little late. Actually found Condi, so Jungler's going to be called off from the attempt in bot lane.
You'd think this was some sort of aggressive play from Contracts, but he knows very well that Galio can be there at any moment, so it's very difficult to win the tug of war against Galio. We have the extra information that Xie has completed his recall, so it doesn't happen very often, but they might actually steal an objective under his nose.
They get the red buff. There's also the Shen ultimate up by Impact. He's playing very far back in that top lane in an attempt to always be free to ult in, but in doing so is giving 957 a fairly large lead.
Teammate Shen certainly wants to play defensively versus the Black Cleaver completion already for 957. Usually you want to give Mystic the turret goal, but 957 getting it tonight for him as well. And this is just getting untenable in the bot side.
Yeah, the laning phase is over when it comes to 2v2 trades until Ardent Sensor is complete. Contracts sniffing for an ultimate.
Going in.
Going all in.
Here comes Shen, 4v2. Ben, he's going to be the first one to start. They're going to try and gank the Ardent Sensor. Ben, Monsoon not enough, as now Mystic's the next target. Jensen, he's also here, but Xie made it through. Shockwave fights them both after Mystic Flash, and Cloud9 going to they get to. They're looking for the third. They'll get it all.
Disaster for Team WE in that bottom lane. Shie teleports down instead of ulting down, then gets caught in the shockwave without being able to ult.
Probably will still lose the turret over time. Able to teleport and
Absolutely,
misses. There it is.
They might lose impact afterwards. That's a red buff Gnar.
Better run. Oh, hop onto the minion just barely. Spirit's refuge up. Jensen coming for a bit of help, but he's pretty far away. Impact still taking damage. Ivory procs again. I think maybe Mega Gnar would have saved Impact. Jensen there just in case.
So it ends up being a turret trade, but the sort of turret that's difficult to return to for WE for time. Ondi eventually will lose the turret under his nose, but 3 kills as well for C9. They were behind in the gold race. They catapult themselves just marginally ahead, but this will mean Ardent Sensor. This will mean item completions. It was desperately needed because already it felt like the game was slowly slipping away from Cloud9.
And it's probably still going to be a tempo advantage for Team WE as they push forward in an attempt to delay more recalls. Nearly an indefensible turret right now on the bottom side, so probably going to be 3 turrets to him. But watching this play, they full commit and they go on to Ben right away.
Sort of proactive play you love to see with Shen comms, using it purely as a conduit to get Shen into the front line. Jensen hits the shockwave. Even though Mystic flashes, he's still in the AoE. The AoEs have been on point. Faker-esque with his ability to get people from what feels like extra range. They take the 3 kills, but WE just brute force down Inferno.
And they opt for the Infernal instead of the bottom lane turret because they figure they can get that turret whenever they want with Gnar. And I think that's true considering the Black Cleaver if he wants to start the split push. The larger question, though, is can WE play around a very strong split pushing 957 with the Gnar? As we say, 1 pick on it this year, and when this team has struggled, it feels like they need to play around Mystic, yet it is Gnar who has a large percentage of the gold rate.
A lot of the play pattern this game has been, can Impact get enough to justify Gnar auto-attacking down turret after turret? And that will still be true, but with all this disengage, it's so hard to be reliable as Cloud9 to make that big Shen play under the nose of the Gnar, and of course Gnar situationally can be a teamfight beast on his own. So one of them goes wrong in kind of the way the first one was a bit of a misfire. I mean, you're going to lose basically every inner turret, every outer turret, in the side lanes especially, very early in this game.
Will still be a big change here despite the gold evening back up. Mystic has finished his Rage Blade, so Sneaky looking for a bit more farm. Has the static shift now to join that BF sword, but he got a lot of gold. He did not get enough for 2 items, so even keel for the ADs. Could be bad times. 957 getting 4-man.
They're trying to full collapse on the Gnar. He is very slippery though.
Great.
Nice interrupt, does flash, and Mega.
Yep, nearly range now. Shockwave misses. 957 flashes out of the way, but the damage might still be too much. Galio though, get a damage reduction in. Does get the knock up onto Jensen, and 957 skirts away. Shie also trying to leave, but Galio is so tanky.
And Impact is left all by him lonesome trying to defend that bottom lane turret. The minion wave's not even in position for them to push. Team WE crushing the pressure game.
It's a single target build right now to Hurricanes. They're happy to take down turrets. The crowd explodes. They know that WE have traded up in this scenario, and they're not stopping anytime soon.
They don't have to stop. Impact cannot hold against that push right there, but Shie has the Galio wave clear. C9 cannot make ground.
Certainly cannot. C9 have to force Jensen down there as well. He'll clear the wave. That's what they need to move things out of the way, but trading up seems to be the biggest thing that WE have gotten in all of these exchanges. Yes, C9 are sitting with 4 kills, but they don't have the gold lead, and certainly not the lead in general.
And vision is where they are lacking as well. 957 sees them on the Rift Herald, pushes him immediately off of it. Because WE has vision control in C9's blue buff of the jungle, they can just rotate all the way across mid lane and take this Rift Herald.
And Rift Herald over. Easy take there in the crowd. Starting to get a little more excited with each and every objective.
Reminding me a little bit of SKT versus C9 Game 2, where we saw Impact in the late game try to make a big proactive play and Huni end the game. Obviously not as comical as that particular game, but with 957 on unfamiliar ground, they're playing around top lane pressure. No, top lane pressure without a jungler needed, just the innate nature of the Shen versus Gnar matchup where Shen is being proactive around the map. They're playing around that pressure well. They're getting a lot more map control than W has had in a lot of these games so far, barring Game 4. And the items keep rolling in, and C9, they're still in that awkward position where from behind, in terms of gold, even with the 4-kill lead, they need to be setting the tempo of this game, unless we're going late.
It helping out as well, of course. No jungler, but Galio being there does give 957 a lot of extra insurance.
He's basically a jungler, Galio.
Yep.
Let's be real.
Might as well be. Yeah. Contracts ulti, forces the flash, by Mystic summon a spell.
Yeah, but they still have a lot of protection left for him with the Janna ultimate and shield and heal.
Jensen ultimate. Wave in the choke point. Jensen has a lot of damage. Condi actually going to be found. Flashes out of the way, stands from
trying to go all in.
They're committing. They get the permafrost, and Shia's ulti will deliver him in. But now his jungler is not there. 957 needs some rage, but Mystic, he's just going forward. They need to kill this damage dealer and cannot do it. Impact, he'll die to Shia's Winter War. And 957 looking for more. Blast Cone is good from Smoothie, but C9 make a trade.
And you saw, Galio doesn't take damage at this stage in the game. C9 was actually waiting around thinking that the Galio was going to be in and they're going to be able to force a summer spell out or something, but they just stood there and had to eat damage from Mystic. These extended fights against a late game Kog'Maw, he gets max stacks on that Ginsu's Rage and absolutely shreds percent health with his Bioarcane Barrage.
And even though Jie's ult was late and he flashed as he was stunned and got no value out of the flash taunt, it was still a 1-for-1. That's what happens with this champ profile and where the gold is, the fact that Mystic is still healthy. Connie just dies straight up. He's ulted by the Galio so late. They get no value out of it at all. And then watch also, as he tries to come in with the taunt, he's actually stunned up. Doesn't get any value from it at all. It's a better fight than you would expect for C9 with where the game is at, and yet it's even.
And you see how fast Impact died there. The shred they get from the Black Cleaver on Gnar, from the Kog'Maw Q, gets rid of any resistances he may have had, and Sneaky's gonna have a hard time getting away from this one.
On the verge of getting 2v1, good flush out of the barrel. Lulu's here, Sneaky just has to dodge everything. The polymorph is good, sorry, the Whimsy actually for a bit of extra speed, and he gets out.
He shouldn't have been there in the first place,
Nope.
but that was a great escape. Sidestepping pretty much everything to allow Smooth the time to catch up.
Even able to trade flashes with Janna, so if you find a way to pop her with the Orianna ult, that would be big. For the side of C9, they push out minion waves well. Better than expected is kind of the story for the last 2 engagements we've seen.
And again, the tagline for the series, don't forget, as the man you just saw in mid lane, Jensen is responsible for punishing Mystic and Ben for not having flashes. He's had a good landing phase, now finished 2 items. So is Shie though, so don't worry about the Galio. He's not dying anytime soon.
And also the Locket means he will be able to shield reactively on the Shockwave animation if he is on his game, which prevents the one-shot coming into Mystic.
It's a build we saw from Caps actually yesterday. They ended up with 3 Lockets on the day, Fnatic. That part I don't agree with. But getting it this early is basically saying, I'm going to absorb Shockwave, and I can still position for the taunt. But of course, Galio's most known for.
Interesting Rift Herald summon right there. You would have expected them to go straight for the Infernal Drake with that Rift Herald mid, but they're a little bit slow. It does give them position in that zone, though. C9 having to burn a few cooldowns. They're going for mid priority instead of second Infernal Drake.
Yeah, looking for the play, no flash though, and takes a little bit of damage. Mystic though, just barreling into Impact. Oh, the stun lands on a Mystic. Chia there for the ultimate, almost immune completely.
Full health Cog after all that.
Jensen getting chased down by 957. He's about to go mega. Flash in, finds an Contract, tries to defend, but he cannot get it as Mystic will find the kill. And our Contract's on the wrong side. Blast Cone's out, but I don't think he's safe.
Locket, they are already out bursting with heals. The damage that is coming from Jensen. They weren't able to take him down. Contracts on the great escape, but a very worrying omen for C9 that when everything hits, they still can't pick up a kill.
Yeah, and they don't get that much more damage. By the way, Baron is up. You expect the Infernal Drake to be a thing, but now Ben keeping Contracts away and Team WE trying to do Baron. It is on a ward.
What a great play by Ben to just force
Just kill Mystic, most likely. Or they're trying to burn it all the way down.
Impact's trying something. They're just going to try and finish it off here.
They can get it.
They don't have a smite. Remember, Condi is here. A miracle steal could keep C9 in the game. Condi, though, waiting very patiently. And now Sneaky, caught out by Mystic. He's going to go down to the living artillery.
This is the point in the game that Team WE wanted to hit, where they have the super strong Kog'Maw and Ben still keeping Contracts at bay.
Ben is the superstar here. This entire time, the Yakety Sax music has been playing as Janna just stops Contracts from being able to recall, to get to Baron, to do anything. He had already done his job. He did not need to be involved in the fight, and denying the smite meant it was a freebie for Team WE.
Also means they can now move straight down for their second Infernal Drake of the game. Mystic also bought a QSS, which hurts the super late game damage, but the power spike right now makes it even harder for C9 to try and catch him.
Well, easy Infernal over to WE. Condi again. Simple smite to take that objective. And again, the crowd is only getting louder as WE get further and further ahead.
And I think they're choosing the right time to roar, not just because they're ahead, not just because they feel good about the Baron, because when you go lock it this early on Galio, QSS this early, I think they just want to get all the advantages now. I could see WE barreling into C9, using the locket to try to disregard the damage from Jensen and basically break the base in this Baron buff duration.
And we've seen this a lot about teams who are good with Galio. Galio just walks up to the turret, sometimes tanks it even, and that gives you the 8 seconds or so that it takes to kill a turret. Double Infernal just makes it even easier, and the fact that they have a frozen Malatinar in the side lane that Impact also can't match.
Yep, first order of business though for WE is to take down that mid outer. They do so simply. Now again, going to move back in onto this tier 2. 957 already forced someone out, so he's going to also take a bonus turret here in the bot side very soon.
You're just stacking bad decisions for WE. Who do you send to answer? The Shen under turret, but no more than that. If Galio's top lane, it doesn't matter. Kog'Maw can push in with the ult. Shia walks up, presses W, and half the turret, in fact all of it, is gone.
Nothing C9 can do. Sneaky was clearing away from the top lane. They're also losing the bot lane turret. This gold lead is absolutely ballooning. This is one of the strongest points in the game for this composition. The two major items on Kog'Maw, and Galio is at his most unkillable since no one has armor or magic pen yet.
No need to move away either. Good stuff all around there as C9 trying to force them away, but 957 finishes his business here in the bot lane. And it's 6 turrets to 1 now. C9 running out of room.
I don't know what a one team fight for C9 looks like. I don't think they have the damage to penetrate. Their turrets are dying. C9 are in full base defense mode, but they're gonna try something.
Ulti finds only Ben looking to try and impact it in. Shockwave is enough to get the kill as Shia's ultimate does move in, but Impact able to get the kill. Shia again just tanking it all, and the turret goes down. Cena forced back once more as Shia dives in, trying to find something. Permafrost is not bad, but Mystic just unabashedly hitting this inhibitor, and it falls down.
That was probably the best case for C9, killing the support before Ben can use Monsoon, and they still lose the inhibitor.
No threat on Mystic, not the slightest threat on Mystic at all, means they can just keep moving forward, taking down objectives every time the Bio-Arcane Barrage comes off cooldown. Rinse and repeat. It's a third Infernal for WE. Everything lining up for the Chinese home crowd team. And C9, they continue the base defense. They need 2 more items on their carries, and WE, they want the game to end before.
Yeah, and we're gonna watch this one more time. Contracts threads the needle. They chain everything, even through the Galio ultimate, but by going in, Impact cannot actually live through the Kog'Maw at this stage in the game. He went Titanic Hydra to try and match some of the push from the Gnar, not even close.
And it may only be 6,500 gold ahead for WE, but the effective gold lead is much larger than that, and if things could not get any better as W are trying to close the series if they do not win off this. Of all things, the 3rd Infernal in a row has spawned for WE.
And numbers are sometimes important when we're talking about scalings, but really it's about 2.5 items on the Kog'Maw. The fact that right now you can't get tanky against the Kog'Maw. Even on 2 members, only 1 Adaptive Helm completed. On the side of Impact, nothing for contracts. With where the total gold is at, 92,000 between 2 teams, it's so hard for C9.
And even without Baron, they can just walk up to the turret because of the power spikes they're on right now.
Mystic sidesteps the Shockwave as a nice ult threads through for contract, but it just doesn't matter.
Jensen saved his ultimate, but you're down. Sorry, Impact saved his ultimate, but Jensen and Contracts are without theirs, which means if Team W do want to keep up this push, they can.
But now they'll just cut down to the mid lane, keep pushing. They don't need to have the Galio there. His ultimate will be available, I believe, in a second. Small monitor here, but I believe it will be available just now. Mystic walks up. He is already basically a fountain laser in terms of damage.
And he's tanking turret hits. Jensen's threatening him, but Ben walks up, shields him, and Mystic just slowly but surely throws goo into the turret.
So important for C9 that they don't lose their 2nd inhibitor, because that makes it all too easy for Team WE to cycle it down. They had rotated mid to defend, but now they have to make it all the way up towards topside.
Ishia in base. He wants to teleport on a minion. He's got the Elixir of Iron as well to help with that turret dive.
FF7 caught out of position, almost goes Mega, and C9 don't overcommit, but the turret TP in instantly, and now that the inhibitor is exposed. C9, you must go now.
They're trying to hold off as long as they can. If they can keep the Shen ultimate, it gives them more flexibility down the road. But Team W does not want to leave before killing this inhibitor.
Ooh, Drockwave actually on a Mystic, but again, it might not matter. Jensen, he's going to get CC. Cleanse splashes out of the way, but WE moving forward. Xie is impenetrable as Sneaky is just try as he might to get him down, but the turret goes down. C9 found the jump, and it wasn't enough.
Team WE playing so well around this power spike. You can see the unkillable Galio. You can see the absolutely shredding Mystic, and these fans have waited so long to see Team WE in the semifinals. The last time they were at Worlds was 2012.
WE spent 5 games of this series trying to assemble their LPL faithful comp, and they got about as close as can be in this game. The Locket has trivialized damage. They're able to walk up. Doesn't matter if Mystic eats a shockwave. They will be able to persevere through that. And I love that stat, Jat, because Cloud9 have been to every Worlds they could qualify for. The first one they could even qualify for was the next year in 2013. It has been so long since Team WE, who started rebuilding around that famous IEM run 2.5 years ago, have finally made to this stage, and that's why the roar from this crowd, if WE can maintain what right now seems like an unassailable lead, will be insane.
And C9 also want to try and hold on as long as possible. This is the most games they have won in a quarterfinal in their history. They were up 2-1 in this series, 1 win away from the finals, but as you mentioned, Team WE, double Infernal, triple Infernal all the way, even if they don't have much attack damage and ability power to multiply with this buff, still substantial, and another Baron on the board.
Just continue to ignore the gold lead. WE are a finite amount ahead as the gold shows, but it just does not matter. 3 Infernals, a dream roll of the dice for WE for what looks to be their final game in this quarterfinal.
And C9 can't get control of the minion waves. That has kind of been the story of the game. Every wave has been pushing well. Even the Caitlyn that C9 prioritized, instead of picking the Galio for themselves, hasn't been able to find that edge. And yeah, Sneaky just finished his last Whisper. It's going to help a bit, but he's so far away from relevant damage.
You get the C9 draft, though. Rolling on Janna Kate to WE would also be a full zone. We'd be sitting here, the game might be ended by 30 minutes, saying, of course. But unfortunately, it's been best case scenario with the Janna Cog, which is the more quintessential WE choice. As Baron started, the Nara's pushing, and everything's happening for WE.
And that's just been the thing. Everything is working right now for WE. It feels like they cannot put a foot wrong as Jensen ganks 957, delivering Baron basically to WE, but I don't think they can fight for it anyway. WE only getting closer to the semifinal.
And they've played these last 2 games so clean. The first game, game 4, after they were 1 game from elimination, they jumped out ahead in kills. C9 probably had the better scaling in that game 4, but Team WE did all the rotations with Talia properly. This game as well, even when they were down 4 kills to 0, they never relented their map play, always keeping the right waves in the right places. Now they're trying to catch out Impact.
Just everything, even going to check to see what Impact was doing as he just runs away, flashless, has his ultimate, but he's not going to make it out alive. Impact, he will fall. Mystic, of course, will get it.
And this means no Shen for 50 seconds as Team WE look to assault the final inhibitor turret in the mid lane.
Feel the crowd only getting louder. Xie displays his flair proudly. WE rebuilt so long ago to finally make it back to this point. 5 years since their first Worlds appearance.
And they're just going straight for it. Xie flies over the Caitlyn traps. They are ignoring C9.
Yep, 957 again, just pushing the tank away. Sneaky is doing what he can, but there is little that C9 can hold on to. That third inhibitor's down. Baron still up for 2 more minutes.
Team WE looking to become the second Chinese team in the semifinals, probably on this push.
Mystic insta cleanses out of the way. 957 pushes them all the way. The shockwave is good, but it will not be enough. Impact is trying to make it happen, but Mystic, the champion, the hero of WE, will hold on. They weather a brutal storm, and Waterley will push themselves to a historic semifinal.
Listen to that crowd. That is what they came here to see. A victorious Team WE playing around their style. There will be tons of questions about this series when you rewatch and analyze it. Mystic consistently controlling Kog'Maw, orchestrating the draft in that last game to get Galio for themselves as well. Team WE looked best when it mattered most, and wins Game 5.
And it's easiest to talk about the long time between Worlds opponents, 2012, 2017, but they also had more immediate history to answer. Their struggles in best of 5 on the year. They got to MSI, could not progress as expected in MSI, fell in the semifinals there. Their ability to get back to the semifinals here, to actually get over the hurdle of what was an indomitable performance from Cloud9, a very impressive performance compared to last year where they fell at the first chance to Samsung Galaxy. WE will continue to try to answer, but now we get the hometown team versus the Korean team, 2 China versus Korea semifinals. We're still with Korea largely underperforming, with SKT smarting after a 5-game series against Misfits. I think Chinese fans will realistically believe that maybe this is their year.
Listen, both of these teams won their groups. RNG won their group over Samsung, who then took down Longzhou. So there are ways you can believe they can win these games. They've already taken down Korea at Rift Rivals. That was a very meaningful moment for the LPL. And then also getting the #1 seed in both of those group stages and then qualifying both teams to the semifinals.
A single bow is more than enough to earn the adoration of this gymnasium. WE have battled so hard and finally, like you said, Papa, answered the question we've had of them in best of 5 series. Cloud9, heartbreaking for the last hope of NA to finally fall. They'll have to wait another year to do it again.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say about NA. I think just like the EULCS fans after Misfits, the Cloud9 fans will be proud of what they did. It wasn't exactly what they wanted. It was close, but I think they come into spring season with their heads held high.
Yeah, and that C9 team had to come all the way from a disappointing quarterfinals defeat in the summer split, go through the play-in, and then we're 1 game away from semifinals. Quite a year.
To break down how Team WE earned their spot in Shanghai, though, let's send it back over to Dash and the analysts.
Thank you very much. Pastry time. Elation for Chinese fans and heartbreak for North American fans as Team WE put together 2 of the most impressive victories back-to-back to bring that series to a close and push themselves to that semifinal that they've been building towards for so long.
And they finally shake the curse. You know, we talk about Jensen himself. He's maybe had some trembles in Game 5, but Team WE, as Papa Smithy was talking about, keep running into this roadblock, and they finally just smash through it. And so much of that was attributed to this draft. For the entire series, Cloud9 had been out-drafting Coach Ohm, and then at the very last second, leave open the Galio.
That Yordle, the Rumble, second ban, why? How on earth does that one happen? I mean, more so, why don't you just take the Galio? You had it first rotation there if you wanted it for Cloud9. I think people will be pointing that for some time. But, hey, on the day, the draft fell, the chips fell where they were, and for Team WE, it was about executing on that draft, and the comfort showed with those champions.
It already makes Game 1 that much more important. The fact that Team WE were able to survive the initial curveball of such a creative draft from Cloud9 allowed them to get to this point where Cloud9 just frankly ran out of steam with their innovative picks.
And I mean, it's the fact that we have seen WE perform so well on all of those champions. There's a whole bunch of things that we can go back and nitpick throughout this series, but honestly, really well played by them. And they showed why everyone's so shocked that they got these champions. They displayed that, yes, you know, these are the reasons on the Rift right there.
We will, of course, see a Team WE replay, but before we get there, I want to take a look at a C9 one. This one 3-0 in the bot lane because it shows the effort made by C9 to target out this bot lane, knowing that they were working against the clock to some degree here.
This is them utilizing the Shen in the great way possible, which is you just teleport him to the other part of the map, you get your man advantage, and on top of that, you got to roam your Orianna. So it's a 5-on-3 this entire time. But WE have their top laner, 957, constantly taking away top lane turrets, so the trades are pretty much even.
They get a top lane turret, and then they get an Infernal Drake after that. So in the end, Team WE, yes, they would rather have not died down there to the Shen play, but still came out very well.
All right, but again, you know, that replay shows that Cloud9 recognized the fact that you get to that mid-game point without a big enough advantage, and the Kog'Maw gets to an unkillable state, being supported by the Galio and the Janna. That eventually will be the case. We are going to, in just a moment, head down to an interview. So before we get there, I just want to talk about, once again, for this Team WE squad, what it means
to come back to the victory, right? Again, to be down 2-1, to have the looks on the faces like they did, and to then mount those 2 victories, knowing that this propels them to a semifinal. When you're looking at that next best of 5, it feels like you've already run the gauntlet. You're kind of prepared for everything.
It's also reaping the rewards of what they've been working for the last 2 years. It was 2015 when CA and Mystic joined the squad. They debuted in the IEM match across from TSM when they took down the GE Tigers. And from then, it's just been kind of this slow incremental of moving the chains, grinding up, moving up the ladder. MSI was kind of the first big appearance, but this is what we've been working for the entire time. Yes, they're not world elite, but they've always been chasing that title again.
After an incredible 5-game series, let's go ahead and throw it down to Shox, who's standing by with Team WE's mid laner.
Thank you very much, guys. Joined here by Xie after doing what seemed impossible after being down match point. How did you guys find the strength to come back in the series and in the end win the game and lock in that semifinal?
你们刚刚在又打到了赛点嘛，然后很紧张，你们最后是怎么就是平复的心情，然后赢回这场比赛的呢？
主要是我就算打到第4局的时候，我们1比2落后的时候，我觉得我们实力是可以战胜对面的，我们实力比对面强。然后接下来之后 BP 不出问题，然后还有选手个人心态不出问题，我觉得我们是可以赢下 C9的。
After the third match, we were actually down 1-2, but we knew that we were already strong and we were able to beat them if we don't make any mistakes in terms of our ban picks, and also if our players are all in the right mentality. So we knew we were going to be able to win.
Well, you guys had a really convincing games. After that, I saw a big sign here that said, keep your dreams and never give up. Of course, the slogans of both RNG and Team WE. How important is it for the LPL that there's 2 teams advancing here to the semifinal?
所以刚刚在观众里面的话，也看到了一些粉丝特意给你们做的灯牌，是把你们和 RNG 的那个Keep Your Dreams 以及Never Give Up 全都放在一起了。那你觉得说2支 LPL 队伍能够成功晋级到4强，对我们 LPL 来讲的话是意味着什么呢？
就捍卫住了 LPL 的荣耀，也为我们主场增加了更多的优势吧。就毕竟我们主场嘛，我们希望我们能拿到更好的成绩来面对 LPL 的观众。
So we're able to defend LPL's honor on the world stage, and it's especially important for us because this is our home court, and we really want to show that LPL is a very strong region.
Yeah, on top of that, Team WE hasn't been at Worlds since 2012. Now you've gone through the play-ins, gone through the group stage, gone through 5 games here, and next up is Samsung. What do you think to your chances for that matchup?
所以 W 的话，也是好久没有进入到世界赛当中了，然后你们这次又经历了入围赛、小组赛，现在8强赛，那你们认为在接下来的话，跟3星对决当中的话，有多大的几率能够取胜呢？
我相信我们队友状态都是比3星的人更强的，然后我觉得我们胜率的话，我们都是对自己有信心的，所以我觉得我们上次3星问题应该不大，因为我们都对自己比较有信心。
I think most of our players are stronger than Samsung's players, and we're also very confident in our own personal skills. So we're pretty confident in beating Samsung.
Well, it's going to be a fantastic matchup as it was today. Thank you very much, Xie. Congratulations. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shox. CA confident against Samsung Galaxy, but we have to remember that Samsung Galaxy is the team that mounted a 3-0 in order to move to the semifinals, right? And so when we talk about, it's figuring out your opponents, there's a lot more evidence of WE than there is of Samsung Galaxy moving towards that semifinal.
And normally I would not feel the same confidence that he has towards this matchup, but what he says, that the draft is very important for this team, and it's not so much that I see it as you have to get the right meta composition, but the comfort picks for this squad in particular. When they get what they're good on and it clicks, they are very strong.
And reminder that, there is experience across from Samsung. LPL faced the Rift rivals. They took down SKT. They took down Samsung. The LPL teams are not afraid. They all want to face Samsung. They all want to face SKT.
The idea of comfort picks is a perfect setup for our final Acer Predator replay here in this game. 21 minutes in, C9, they pull the trigger, look to kill Mystic, and it just doesn't happen.
Already at this point, you're looking down, they have lockets prepared, Janna comes through, Galio damage reduction. It doesn't feel like they even get that close to killing him, and as soon as that ends right there, they've expended everything, and it's everybody scramble, run for your lives.
Which is crazy, because everything hit, right? Cloud9 in terms of execution, they land the Sejuani ult, they land the Orianna ult, everything hits, and it's just not enough to push that damage through.
emphasizing again why the Galio, why the Janna, why the itemization were just so key and so important there. You cannot give those picks away because if Mystic ever makes a mistake, he has the confidence that his team has his back.
And I mean, his Kog'Maw, you see it there, 28.5 thousand damage. But honestly, when I watch him do auto attacks, it feels like he's doing way more damage than any other Kog'Maw. And it's quite interesting because nobody else from the semifinalists or even quarterfinals even prioritized this pick. Back in Rift Rivals, W was first picking this champion when Galio was even stronger. That just shows how good this guy is and how much confidence we have on this comfort pick.
Exactly, and talking about the comfort picks and the specialization of those players, it makes you question even more than just the Rumble ban. Then you even start to be like, what about the Xayah then? Can we even drop that with his, hyper focus on this Kog'Maw and then like try and ban it? But then you're living in the past and we can't do that. We need to move on, Dad.
Well,
7 years.
But on the topic of comfort picks, right? Somebody that wasn't necessarily on comfort this time around was 957 on the Gnar. Today he had a incredible showing in helping mount a crucial victory for his team. He will receive our Player of the Series award. And so let's talk about this guy.
All I'm saying is people are like, oh, Con this, Cuvee that, so as amazing. If you add all that up, you get 957. This guy is the unsung hero. He is so underrated. If you think all the way back to MSI, his Kled come charging through and completely changing up that tournament. And here he's on the back half, the tanks, and he still had a great performance even in their losses.
This guy is always threatening the enemy's backline. Whether he is the Rumble or drawing the Rumble bans or he's on his Cho'Gath, he constantly performs really intelligent decisions from him throughout this tournament.
And I want to add a little fun fact about him because we don't have anybody else that also is named with purely numbers. If you look at your number pad, 957 forms a V. Somebody else already took the name, so he had to go for it.
Funnily enough, there's a dude who looks exactly, as I throw my pin, a guy who looks exactly like 957, and his name is V, so that is the joke. If you look at your keypad, it creates a V. They look identical.
There it is, but I think, again, if we talk about Game 5 in isolation, he was such a crucial member in terms of the victory because while C9 was making moves and actually creating action, getting the kills in the bot lane, those crucial 2 turrets, the first turret going to 957, we saw this massive disparity between him and the Shen and the map pressure that created, as well as, once again, the pressure that it put on C9 just in terms of feeling like they had to make something happen, really pushed them to the brink.
And I think that WE really trusts 957. With the Gnar, they knew that he was going to be able to take turrets, but I want to look back at Game 3 as well, when they took the Cho'Gath in the first rotation, when that was that infamous already Maokai jungle. Well, they knew that, hey, this guy's Cho is so good that we can afford to do this, that we can take it in an early rotation so it doesn't get banned out. And if we see more focus on him, I think he'll continue to deliver results.
And reminder, he is a bedrock emotionally for this team. Like Ambition, he is very, he's an older guy. I mean, Kobe, you might know something about that. So he's just very humble, down to earth, super motherly. Sorry, Kobe.
It's all right, Kobe.
I didn't know I had to reach, and I was like, bird Kobe, that's fine. I love you.
How's that back doing? Everything
Great,
good over
great.
there?
We're
All right,
at
just
the
making
Kings
sure.
here.
All right, hey, we're ready for another interview. Let's toss it down to Shox, who's standing by with WE's bot laner.
Thank you very much, guys. Was also able to grab Mystic, the superstar AD carry, bringing it home, who seemed very, very emotional and down after that third game. We also saw you getting a massage from the coach and a pep talk. What was said and what allowed you to get yourself back on the Rift and get yourself back together for that game 4 and 5?
우선 4강 진출 축하드리고요. 3경기 패배 이후에 이제 온무 감독님께서 이제 미티 선수 막 이제 등 뒤를 막 이제 마사지 해주면서 되게 막 조언을 해주고 격려를 해준 것도 처음 보였는데 그때 혹시 무슨 얘기 들었는지 궁금하고요. 이제 그 이후에 어떻게 다시 추스려서 경기를 역전할 수 있었는지 그 원동력이 무엇인지 궁금합니다.
저희가 그때 지고 있는 상황에서 오무 형이 저 막 충분히 역전할 수 있다고 첫 판도 되게 불리했는데도 이겼다 막 그렇게 말씀해 주시면서 좀 멘탈 잡으라고 이렇게 얘기해 주셨어요.
So after we lost game 3, Om came up to us and he said that for game 1, you guys, even for game 1, even though you're behind, you guys still managed to win the game. So keep up the game and still hold on to the confidence. And he helped us a lot in grabbing our mentality.
Well, you needed to step up for sure because it was all about the bottom lane almost all series. What did you think of the opposition in Smoothie and Sneaky, and how do you think you did today?
거의 모든 경기가 바텀 라인전이 가장 그 핫하게 이제 맨날 계속 이제 격전이 이루어질 정도로 되게 많은 교전이 있었는데요. 상대편 바텀 라인이 스니키 선수랑 스무디 선수 어땠는지 어떤 선수를 평가되는지 좀 말씀 부탁드립니다.
일단 저희가 더블킬 따였기 때문에 저희가 발렸죠. 네. 캐리해 주신 팀원 감사합니다. 팀원들에게 팀원이 캐리해 줘서 감사하다고.
So when we lost 2v2, like that just showed that which was a better bot lane. So I just want to say thanks to my teammates for carrying me.
Oh, well, we had an interview with Chie, your mid laner, before. I asked him about Samsung matchup, and he was very confident you guys would be able to beat them. What do you think to the matchup?
이전 인터뷰에서 같은 팀 미드라이너 시에 선수랑 인터뷰했었는데요. 시에 선수는 이제 4강에서 삼성팀 이길 자신 있다고 되게 자신 있게 말씀하셨는데 미스 선수는 어떻게 생각하시나요? 삼성전에 대해서.
일단 롱주를 이기고 올라온 팀이기 때문에 그 쉽게 생각하면 안 될 것 같고, 일단 미드는 그래도 시제가 더 잘할 것 같은데 요즘 보면은 저만 좀 잘하면 되지 않을까.
Of course, since Samsung beat Longzhu, I think that it's going to be a very tough matchup, and we can never put our guards down. But I do have faith in CA that CA can outplay Crown. So I think it's just on me whether I can play my best.
All right, we'll be looking forward to that. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mystic. Thank you, Homin, as well. That was it from here on the floor. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Sharks. Pointing to CA's performance as solid and his own as being the one that'll be pivotal to success against Samsung Galaxy, but also giving a nod to Sneaky and Smoothie as being the better bot lane on the day. And as we do say goodbye to Cloud9, the last Western team to exit the tournament, I just want to take a moment to talk about, once again, what they've achieved. Having hit quarterfinals as many times as they did, this time going up 2-1 in the series, being one win away from making that semifinal.
Constantly innovating. Graves pick, they had the Shen special counter to Scout's playstyle. They had the Singe pick. They were constantly trying to push the envelope. As you brought up before, the teams that got out of the groups in first place seemed to get a little bit complacent with the new styles that they were going to try and bring. And so it was really refreshing, and Cloud9 never gave up.
Yeah, no, it's the fact that they got better over the course of the tournament, not just in their adaptation, but also in their execution. When I was studying Cloud9 coming into it, I was very scared about their decisiveness. They were always great at setting up, but then executing on the plays, sometimes they would fumble. It's why they struggled domestically and came in as third seed. But in this tournament, all of those, indecisive moments looked gone. And it was actually, Impact and Jensen and Contracts all stepping up. And then on this day, Smoothie and Sneaky joining them. So they should hold their heads up high.
It'll sting now, but they should look back on it fondly. With this week complete, it's time to highlight some players that stood out in the quarterfinals. Here are our Best of the Rift, brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. For quarterfinals, we've got Samsung Galaxy's Ambition, SKT's Faker, RNG's Ming, and Team WE's 957. First up, it's Ambition.
And this entire tournament, we know the teams need Bedrocks, and Ambition is basically the head of Samsung. If he is not playing, this team looks completely lost. But when he's on his game, especially when it showed against Longzhu, this team looks completely revitalized. And spearheading such a veteran just makes it such a devastating team in the best of 5.
Completely agree. Everybody's looking at me.
Well, I'm looking at either of you.
I had a senior moment, okay?
yeah, nice cover. Hey, but because we got to take a moment to talk about these guys as they are phenomenal. Next up, no surprise, Faker.
Yeah, it's a hide on bush senpai, the unkillable Demon King, Faker himself. This guy is reminding everyone why he is the best player in the world. Even in SKT's shaky losses, when we have so many questions about what type of form they're coming into, no one is questioning Faker right now.
Yeah, all summer long, it was a little wish-wash, but when playoffs came around, this guy just kicked it to high gear. I haven't seen him in this form in a long time, and he has
been really animated.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta actually know how to.
You have to
drive.
kick it.
I drive stick.
Yeah, kick it up in a high gear. He did. I mean, again, showing his veteran status, showing why he's the best player in the world, winning that 5th game. So he's not ready to say goodbye to his world titles just yet. Next up, we have Ming.
Ming, to me, was just so outstanding. Yes, Uzi definitely deserved his MVP, but Ming did so much to get him there. Remember from group stages, he was the one to go the longest without dying. He ended with the highest KDA. He had the 2nd highest kill participation of anybody in the group stages, and the all-important Soraka pick. I just feel like because pick and ban was so important in all of these quarterfinals, having an extra card like that to be able to mess with the Ardent sensor supports really gave them an upper hand.
And he's certainly not out of cards. He still has that pocket Leona pick. I know we've already seen it this tournament, but Ming actually plays it.
Well, I was going to say, that's the thing. Somebody else already showed it. I mean, someone's now shown the Singe. The question is who's going to maybe adapt and pick that up. The Leonas. I mean, there's the Tom Kench that Wolf had to pull out. There is so much innovation here in the quarterfinals. And funnily enough, it's the the one seeds that were pushed to it in the moment who had to adapt and react. But it'll be very curious to see how the meta continues to evolve throughout the tournament. Finally, it's 9-5-7. Let's talk about this guy again.
And we can continue to talk about him all day. The reason why Team WE, their team fighting is so consistent, it's not just this guy in the lane phase, it's also the zone and the pressure that he creates in those team fights, allowing Mystic to sit and spit on that Kog'Maw and rack up those damage numbers.
Sit and spit. I like it. That's the Kog'Maw play style that we'll stick to. Honestly, yeah, I can't say enough about this guy. Also, in addition, the importance of the teleport timings, we did really see big plays pull off that way.
All righty, we'll see which players will step up next week as we ship off to Shanghai for the semifinals. From the first gank till the final ace, you can follow the best of the Rift in more places than ever before. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Now, our week in Guangzhou was packed with moments that made the crowd roar, and we couldn't call it a day without looking at those big plays. Brought to you by Acer. First up, Cabby Kun was floored by Uzi's play in his first series versus Fnatic.
Caps gets at least one kill on the way out. Baron secured. Flash Uzi from Jesus. Uzi's going low. The Baron's held up. He gets one. Manages to rocket jump away. MLXG's trying to channel. Flash forward from Broxer. Gets the Baron. Uzi's not down. But here comes Reckless.
Then this fight is insane. Uzi stands his ground, moves forward, kills Jesses, gets the reset, hits the plan. Everything feels like it's planned. Then he still has Flash after all of this to finally get the execute.
I mean, the audience may be floored, but for me, that's just another Tuesday for Uzi. That's like standard.
I always like how they show the player cams for Uzi, and that entire series, he's just laughing his ass off after every single play, regardless if he died or not.
I was going to say every single play except for the Nexus turret death. That one probably didn't have a smile following it. Next up, Sartorius tweeted out, when people say supports can't carry, Ignar says, challenge accepted.
They turn to Wolf as Bang feels like he can get back into the fight. Just 150
has no heal.
Hansama. One more shot as Wolf wants the glitter lands. Bang almost got the barrier comes in. On to Bang. Fight in the jungle still. Here comes Hansama. Wolf's going down. 2 kills in the bot lane as Misfits pull the trigger.
Talia will have priority afterwards.
I will not be one. What is he doing?
Talia is moving now to you. Talia is moving to you now, okay?
Come to me, come to me, come to me.
I can go.
You need to be careful now. You need to be careful now, Maxwell.
I'm fine.
Kill him.
This guy's so...
It wasn't until that moment he's chasing down the vein that everyone in the caster room, we all realized, it's a Fervor Leona! It's gonna kill him!
Yeah, totally ignoring the keystones until that moment. I have to be so impressed with how calm those comms were. I mean, in that moment, everyone's, a second away from death, an auto attack away from death. And once again, I'll point out the Flash Relic Shield a heal to stay alive.
Right, in that moment, you're in the zone. You don't want anybody telling you what to do. All you need to hear is the timing of who's coming down. So they say, hey, someone's coming down river. You got this much time. You keep doing your thing.
Well, keep tweeting to @LOL Esports with your big plays all throughout Worlds, and we'll keep sharing them all the way to the finals. Now it's time to talk about the semifinal matches as we have them locked in. Let's pull up the bracket. Semifinal weekend starts with RNG taking on the reigning champs, SKT, on October 28th. Then Team WE hope to topple Samsung Galaxy on Sunday, October 29th. Let's talk about these two matchups for just a bit. Starting with SK Telecom T1 versus Royal Never Give Up.
I mean, it's a shaky SKT and also, frankly, a shaky RNG. RNG also haven't really adapted their style. They're still finding victories through the same way, and SKT did at least tighten things up and match Misfits when they went to Game 5.
Yeah, actually, this series is interesting to me because we've seen this RNG that's so much more late game oriented and has not been the typical, what we expect of rushing forward and snowballing super early. But Misfits was a lot about early game versus SKT. And they were able to upset them with all these, the Ignar picks that you're talking about and trying to bum rush. So, will we see RNG flex a little bit more early game muscle, or are they actually just going to go late game toe-to-toe with SKT? Because either of those sound like a very exciting series to me.
I mean, absolutely, but when I look at the series of SKT RNG, I'm thinking about the mentality that both these teams are coming into. I find that RNG is a little bit more confident in their demeanor, in the way that they play, even though it looked still a bit shaky, compared to the SKT that we always know is super confident going into games. They're actually saying, we thought this was the end for us.
And it's also
in their game against Misfits, sorry.
No, it's all good. I was like, it's the end for SKT. Move on to the... No, it's also the revenge of Uzi. The fact that this is the 2013 finals rematch there. And with Wolf and Bang, kind of underperforming. Even Coach Koma was pretty upset in one of those interviews. Uzi and Ming have to have big grins on their faces, knowing that Ignar has created a blueprint for them to follow.
All right, WE Samsung Galaxy. How about this one?
I think this one actually is a bit more Samsung favored than the other one is. Like, we usually give Korea, a huge advantage here, but honestly, seeing WE stretch like this, I feel like Samsung are going to be able to follow up pretty well.
Yeah, Samsung to me right now looked like the tournament favorites. They took down the previous tournament favorites, which were Longzhu, and just dismantled them in a 3-0 fashion, the cleanest of the quarterfinals, and the play that they showed just exceeded the expectations that we had of Samsung at any stage throughout the year. So, frankly, WE is going to have to change up a lot if they want to put up a fight here.
And it's not just the play that they were executing on, it's also the manner of which they did it through the draft phase, which is what WE really struggled with today in this best of 5. Samsung just completely out-drafted around Longzhu, picking out the Lissandra pick, and who knows what else they have in their arsenal.
A quick preview of next week's matches, but it's time to put a close on our quarterfinals. So now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and stay tuned after the show for Worlds Tonight, where Shox, Froskern, and Azael will break down Team WE's win and look towards the semifinals. Otherwise, we'll see you in Shanghai for more Worlds 2017. Good night.
Legends never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die.